Mr. President, President Mnangagwa, today I address you. The changes that are funded, equipped, supplied across near your border. The danger is real. If you think you look at me, I've never told you a lie that has embarrassed you. For 24 years, I've been your friend. They are near you. Watch them. Stand firm. You have done very well. From 1997, sanctions, President Mugabe goes off, you took power, you have stabilized. This country has not gone to chaos. This country does not drive cars upside down on a wrong road. It's not a pariah state. Zimbabwe is not, and I will stand firm. I'm talking proudly so that K. Stammer, the Right Honorable Prime Minister, friend of mine, can hear me. This is my feeling about Zimbabwe. Dr. David Lamy, you are my friend. You better hear me. Don't isolate Zimbabwe anymore. Let's engage the people of Zimbabwe. Let this message go out. Let the British government start engaging. We don't need to lose more than what we have lost in the policy of antagonism. Let's engage. Let's contain. Don't bring it Blair near us. Blair's policies killed the world. In Iraq, you saw what happened. He told us he used a sexed dossier to destroy Iraq. In my book, I have documented the evidence on how Tony Blair erred, and I will display this book for you. This book is on display. It's being bought by hundreds, and I want to thank hundreds and hundreds of you of buying this book, which is on the 50 pounds or British pound, and the postage, you will receive the book. The story of how Tony Blair killed Zimbabwe is here, written by myself. It is here in this book of 396 pages. You can find every evidence that you are looking for. Is here. How Tony Blair destroyed Zimbabwe, how he erred. And we in the Labour Party, new Labour Party, a Labour Party in the government in Britain, excluding those who wanted to destroy Zimbabwe, must not follow the policies of Tony Blair. We need to engage Africa. We need to tell Africa. We need to suspend those who are not very good out of the Commonwealth. Why haven't you suspended people like the Nigerian government? It should go out of Commonwealth. It is killing people every day. Why did you suspend Zimbabwe? The same people who suspended Zimbabwe in 2002 in the Commonwealth are the same people who are pretending to be working to readmit Zimbabwe in the Commonwealth. Mr. President, you are my friend. When you get this clip, listen to my advice. Don't give them anything. We are now here. We shall make sure that you go back if you want to go to the Commonwealth. If you think the Commonwealth is worth it, because we speak the English, we speak the manners, the British Council, we do our telephone systems are with them, fine. But they should not lie to you. These are the same people, architects of removal of Zimbabwe. Patricia Scotland was one of them. And we are going to meet in Samoa. I will tell her in her face, she's not a government in Samoa. Yes. I have been accredited to be part of the delegates in Samoa. I will tell her my mind. You don't play with Matanga. No way. I will tell you my mind as far as Africa is concerned. You have failed the Commonwealth, and therefore don't pretend to be helping Zimbabwe. Ladies and gentlemen, the story of Zimbabwe makes me very emotional. A country I've defended, a country that has made me to be hated, a country that has made me to lose my everything that I have, including my job, a country that has made me to be almost assassinated in the United Kingdom. The records are there in Scotland Yard by people who never liked me to speak about and to concur with President Mugabe. But a country that is resilient, a country that has resilient people. The transformation that President Mnangagwa has made is enormous. The transformation that you can see today can be utilized as a basis for a consensus towards a proper management of a reset Zimbabwe. A Zimbabwe that does not use American violent politics, but a Zimbabwe that uses politics of consensus, of agreement. You can have your party, but once you have a presidential type of governance, you are going to fight. You are going to fight. And that is the same thing that is killing some African countries today, because they don't listen. My own country, Uganda, the opposition leader is still crying of election of 2021. And we are heading towards another election in 2 years. He says it was stolen. Instead of concentrating on working, an opposition in Africa that goes to beg money from George Soros, then he comes back to use that money, pockets some, buys houses in South Africa, buys houses in London, and then comes to tell people to go to the streets, to go and fight, is not my opposition. Is not Matsanga's opposition. Is not me. I have never called for sanctions against my country. One of the disagreements why I had a fight with Morgan Changarai, even physical at times in conferences in London, is this question of calling for sanctions. Welshman Kube, Tendai Biti, those are the guys who used to go around calling for sanctions to go and come and kill their own country. Today, they are lamenting. They have written books of lamentation. But I used to warn them that, gentlemen, don't call for sanctions. They said I was a wrong man. I was a hired mercenary to finish Changarai. Changarai, in his book, The Deep End of the Sea or whatever ocean, I don't know. I read it on page 53. You can check that page. You'll find a whole page, 2 pages on Dr. Matsanga. Because I used to tell him, don't. And may his soul rest in peace, that when we meet up in the paradise, if he's in the paradise or waiting room for judgment, I will still tell him, you did a bad job of calling sanctions to hit your country. Ladies and gentlemen, the Zimbabwe we want is a Zimbabwe that fits in Africa. Not a Zimbabwe isolated, not a Zimbabwe sanctioned, not a government sanctioned, not a government that has an opposition that picks money from somewhere else to come and harass its people. Why don't Zimbabweans sit down and say, where did we go wrong? I might not be popular in fronting this strategy of redemption strategy, but I have talked to His Excellency, yourself, Mr. President. I've talked to you in our meeting in Harare, in 2 hours meeting that we had with you, and another 2 hours meeting that we had again. I told you about a redemption strategy. A redemption strategy does not mean you lose. It is healing. People have not healed. People in Africa have not healed. People have grudges. It's cosmetic for us to come and make statements. But there are people who have not healed. You have seen the type of not healing in South Africa. Ramaphosa and Zuma cannot see eye to eye because they lack a redemption strategy. Malema does not see eye to eye with Ramaphosa or with Zuma. So we went back to 1994. We have to make a government of national unity because we have not redempted. We have a lot of anger. We accuse, we hate, a lot of hate. That hate is caused by the politics of America. Look at the hate there in America. Trump is hated. Biden is hated. Trump hates Biden. Biden hates Trump. They all make their supporters to hate each other. Why don't you turn a leaf and go back and ask, what do we want? We are a generation that is going. I am in the late 60s. I am following you, Mr. President. We are going. We want to leave a generation behind that will steer and keep our legacy when we are gone. How do we do that? How do we do that? We need to find a consensus on how to move our way forward. I am very impressed with Zimbabwe about the new dollar, the new account, the new currency. I fully support an African country that uses its own means as a currency. The ZIG is a good example of how you have been very innovative, how you can be able to manage your affairs. Let it be transparent to everybody. Let everybody in Zimbabwe have it. Gaddafi, one of the reasons why Gaddafi went down is he went and told Sarkozy about an African currency of using gold and creating an African currency. Sarkozy told the Americans, they sat down, they plotted using United Nations Security Council Resolution 1970-73. They bombed Gaddafi, they killed him. You have done a great job on the currency that you are trading in gold. Encourage your Minister of Finance to go on that mode. Follow that channel. Trade, things are coming. Involve more of regional markets. Ask for regional support. One of the things that kills Africa, we look at dealing with the outside markets, but we have regional markets. We have places in Africa where we can trade. Africa. I saw a topic of Nigeria having no food, but Zimbabwe has food. Those farms have food. And the people in Nigeria are fighting because of spaghetti, which is not our stable food. But we can export food to Nigeria and elevate and remove this question of hunger and shortages that are causing Tinubu a problem on the streets that are going to come. People are angry with Tinubu. So keep that zig. I am doing a cross. Every day I do country by country. And today I'm doing Zimbabwe. You have done very well. You keep that level, but know that there are enemies just near one of your countries, there are enemies. There are enemies that are trying to make sure that you are derailed. Mr. President and your government and the people of Zimbabwe, whether you are in opposition or in the government, you have only one nation, and that country is called Zimbabwe. You can go to London, you can settle anywhere in the US, you can settle in London, you are still called a Zimbabwean. You can naturalize, have a British passport, you are still called naturalized, a British national or American national. You are Zimbabwean. This country is yours. We have a lot of external darker forces that want to dismember our African states. Very many of them are here pretending to be our friends. France, USA, and other states have pretended. They have dismembered states. They have come closer. They fund NGOs. They give NGO money to come to destabilize African states. This thing is happening. Remember, Obama said, where he cannot send troops, they will send non-governmental organizations to dismember you. If you are dumb and you don't see that in Africa, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in the government and you don't see what is taking shape, then you must be somebody who needs help. On the last front, the external relations of Zimbabwe is hinged on a non-aligned movement relationship. Zimbabwe has no looking left or right. Zimbabwe looks forward, straight forward. We don't look left or far. We have non-aligned. Zimbabwe is non-aligned. A threat of America's existence in a neighboring country in AFCOM cannot be talked, we cannot fail to talk about it. I don't know what has happened to my good friend, HH. He's my friend. He's my good friend from London. He used to come for my lectures, my meetings in London. I don't know what has gone in his head. I have never seen AFCOM based internally in the interland doing what? But most of us who know, I wrote an article this week, and you viewers pick that article from eagle.com, Uganda. The ego of UN missed a chance in DRC Congo. That article will explain each and everything on why AFCOM is in Lusaka and what they are really doing. It's purely collecting the minerals. So if you are collecting the minerals and they have signed an agreement with the Congolese government that they will be taking their minerals, then where is the problem? Where is the problem? The problem is not Zimbabwe. The problem is the people who are, instead of collecting their minerals, as they want to cause war by collecting more minerals and supplying, these minerals come from where? The suppliers are killing people in order to get the minerals to sell to the Americans. It's not Uganda, it's not Rwanda alone that are selling minerals. No, my argument is that USA also sells minerals. Illicit trade of minerals is done by United States companies, multinational companies and other companies from France. They are buying minerals of war. That is the point. So when you look at that, based on that, let's look at how far, what has changed. President Mnangagwa has changed the policy. You write as much as you want. The newspapers are publishing. They publish critical articles on the government where corruption is involved. It has been openly discussed in papers. Functions. Zimbabwe still functions. There's a state with its own functions. The police is functioning. The army is functioning. The civil service is functioning. The only thing that it is coming out from, it is rebuilding a nation. They are rebuilding this nation. It takes time for the nation to rebuild. For you to think it can rebuild overnight. When the British disorganized it 20 years ago, Tony Blair, the same man who is coming around in this book, if you look at what they did, you will come up and say, this man was right. I was right. They destroyed this country from a food basket from a harvest basket of Africa to where it is today. It was destroyed. We used to go for honeymoon. It has come back. It has picked back. Its tourism is working. You can't expect miracles to happen overnight. But still, Zimbabwe will struggle on. And I'm very happy. I am not one of those who would wish a state that I've fought for vigorously, internationally, to dismember. I therefore want to thank the leadership of President Mnangagwa. Continue to do what it is. I might not be able to reach you, but somehow this step will reach you. Those who will see it will send it to you. I have done this to support you, and I continue to support you, that this country do something that can bring up, continue with that type of good heart of bringing people together, such that there is no mess that we see that is crippling several states in Africa. Engage, engage, engage. Engagement, containment will produce a redemption strategy of accountability, reparation, restitution, and forgiveness. Those are some of the factors that lead to healing. For if elections have been conducted, they are over. Let the opposition understand that the Plateau Republic did not say there will be fairness throughout. That's why we call it an election. Forgive and move on. I tell my younger people in my country, Uganda, the younger man, the musician, if you feel that the elections are not going to be conducted properly, then don't take part in it. Sit at home. Let the government conduct its election and finish. Why do you go in an election then cause us death? If you feel it is not worth it, they don't want to listen. Then you run to Britain to accuse the same country. It is sad. Very, very sad. The sanctions that were put on Zimbabwe by America have created a great, great damage to this nation of Zimbabwe. As I land, my appeal to the people of Zimbabwe is to give support to your government. Whichever side you are, give support to your government. Encourage, criticize them positively, and tell them this is not the way to go. There are people who might bring difficulties at difficult times. There are those who might do extreme bad things at difficult times. But still, the state, your country, remains your country. Engage them, engage the leadership, engage the opposition. discuss and find a way out. Reset yourselves. Let's create a new renaissance that Kuruma told us. Let's have political unity. Economic unity will come next. It will flow. If you don't have political unity, you cannot have economic emancipation. Thank you very much. The people of Zimbabwe, that was Matsanga Africa Perspective. I want to take this opportunity to dedicate this podcast to President Emerson Mnangagwa. If there are things that you have learned from this podcast, let God help you. Thank you very much. Meanwhile, this book can be obtained from me by going on my Twitter or X handle. You only need to fill in, there's a PayPal. You pay £50 or $65 for a copy, including postage to where you are in any part of the world. We shall send you this book. It explains everything, why, how Britain erred on Zimbabwe. Britain erred on Zimbabwe. How it erred, how Tony Blair messed this country. I'd waited for a good moment of this nature by the Labour government, which has come in for them to understand. And most of us will be part and parcel of helping them and guiding them on the African policy. Thank you very much for listening to me. I'm Dr. David Matsanga of Pan-African Forum, Africa Perspective. Matsanga, Africa Perspective, for show from Africa World Media in London and Ghana right now live. Thank you very much to all my crew across Africa, wherever you are, those in Harare, those in Nairobi, those in London. Thank you very much, Michelle, for doing a good job. And thank you in London. Thank you very much. Keep it going. We see you shortly, soon, in the next coming days. God bless. God bless Africa.